All right, let's get right into it. Tucked away in the ancient book of Daniel, there is this absolutely mind-bending prophecy. We're talking about what seems to be a 490-year countdown, laying out the fate of an entire nation. It's a vision of judgment, redemption, and a timeline that has had people talking for thousands of years.
But here's the thing. This massive, world-changing timeline, it didn't come from some booming voice in the clouds. It all started with one man, a really desperate prayer, and a burning question in his heart. So how on earth could one personal, quiet moment of anguish unlock a 490-year destiny? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
The whole prophecy hinges on this one phrase, 70 weeks. Now, when you hear that, you're probably thinking, a year and a half, right? But according to the source material, that's not it at all. Each week here actually stands for 7 years. So you do the math. 70 times 7 gives you 490 years. This is the master clock that everything else is set to.
To really get a handle on the prophecy, we have to go back to the moment that sparked it. And this wasn't just some casual, everyday prayer. No, this was born from a huge national crisis and some really deep, personal soul-searching.
So picture this. Daniel is reading the scrolls from the prophet Jeremiah, and he has this sudden, startling realization. The 70-year exile his people were sentenced to, it's up. The time is over. They should be packing their bags and going home. But nothing's happening. Jerusalem is still a pile of rubble. And that realization is the trigger for everything that comes next.
What's so amazing about Daniel's prayer is that he doesn't just jump in and start asking for stuff. He starts with this incredibly detailed confession. He's taking full responsibility, not just for himself, but for his entire nation. He lists everything out, from general impurity all the way to serious, deliberate sin. He admits they're liable, that they deserve what's happening because of their rebellion. He is methodically building his case before God.
And this prayer isn't just a random list. It's actually a literary work of art. It's built using a structure called a chiasm. The easiest way to think about it is like a pyramid. You build up your ideas to a single central point at the top, and then you come back down in reverse order. It's a clever way to make you focus on what's most important, the idea right at the peak.
And this right here? This is the peak of Daniel's prayer pyramid. The interpretation we're looking at shows that the absolute pivot point of his whole argument is the law of Moses. Daniel is essentially saying, look, we broke the contract. We violated the terms of our covenant, and now we're living with the consequences that were written right there in the fine print. This complete ownership of their failure is the foundation for everything he's about to ask for.
So just as he's wrapping up this incredible, heartfelt prayer, the entire scene just shifts. He gets an answer, and it's a direct, supernatural one.
The angel Gabriel shows up. Now, you have to remember, Daniel has been fasting and praying. He is physically and emotionally drained. The text says Gabriel gives him a resurrecting touch, and this is more than just a little boost of energy. It's a moment of transition. Gabriel is there to shift Daniel's focus from the 70 years of exile he was worried about to a much, much bigger timeline.
And that brings us to the main event, the decoding of those mysterious 70 weeks. This is where it all gets laid out on a tangible, historical timeline.
Gabriel breaks the 490 years into 3 distinct chunks. First, there are 7 weeks, which is 49 years. This analysis connects that period to the time it took to rebuild Jerusalem. Then you get this really long gap of 62 weeks, or 434 years. Now, what's really key here is the interpretation that this isn't just time passing. It's a purposeful, symbolic delay, almost like a test of faith. And that leads to the final, climactic 70th week, a 7-year period that is all about the Messiah.
So, the prophecy says that after those first 69 weeks are up, an anointed one, a Messiah, will be cut off. Now, when you hear cut off, your mind probably goes to an execution, a death penalty. But according to this analysis, the original language points to something even deeper, a formal excommunication, a kind of divine abandonment where the Messiah is desolate by God himself.
This cutting off moment also triggers a massive shift in how things are done. The prophecy says it will stop the sacrifice and tribute. Specifically, the source points out that this refers to the peace offering and the tribute offering. And these weren't just about atoning for sin, they were about fellowship, about having a communion meal with God. So the point is huge. The old system of relating to God is officially over. A totally new way is about to begin.
Okay, so we've got the prayer that started it and the timeline it revealed. But why? What was the ultimate point of this intricate 490-year countdown?
Well, the prophecy itself gives us 6 very clear goals. It was all designed to bring rebellion to a final head, to put the official stamp on all the sacrifices that came before, to legally cover the liability for sin, and to introduce a brand new everlasting righteousness. It would also seal, or you could say fulfill, all the visions of the past and anoint a most holy. And this interpretation sees that as a person, the high priestly Messiah.
The source material really sums it up perfectly here. The events of this prophecy, all centering on the Messiah, were like someone pressing an official signet ring into hot wax. It didn't invent the message, but it confirmed it. It authenticated it, and it fulfilled everything that God had revealed up to that point. It was the grand finale.
And that leads us to one final, really provocative thought. This whole interpretation hinges on that 62-week, 434-year delay. It wasn't a mistake. It was a planned part of the timeline. So it leaves us with a question to chew on. If a prophecy this specific can have a massive delay woven right into its fabric, what does that really tell us about the nature of time, faithfulness, and destiny itself?